Dr. Elena Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she knelt beside the strange metal structure. The twin suns of Kepler 442c beat down on her back, making her worksuit feel like an oven. She had been digging in this spot for 3 days. Now, and what she found made her hands shake with excitement. The metal was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was dark gray, almost black, and it seemed to drink in the light around it. When she touched it with her gloved hand, it felt warm, as if something inside was still alive after all these years. Her scanning tools told her the metal was older than any civilization they knew about, much older. "Elena, you need to see this," called Dr. Amy Rodriguez from across the dig site. Amy was the team's language expert, and she sounded worried. Elena stood up and walked over to where Amy was standing next to a tall wall that they had uncovered that morning. The wall was covered in symbols that looked like they had been carved deep into the metal. They were not like the flowing, artistic writing that most alien races used. These symbols were sharp and angular, cut into the metal with military precision. They looked like they were made to last forever and to be read from far away. "What do you think they say?" Elena asked, looking at the strange markings. Amy shook her head slowly. "I have never seen anything like this before, but there is something about them that feels familiar. Like I should know what they mean, but I can't quite remember." Commander Jake Thompson walked up behind them, his heavy boots crunching on the rocky ground. Jake was in charge of keeping the dig team safe, and he had been getting more nervous as they found more of the ancient site. He was a big man with kind eyes, but right now those eyes looked troubled. "Ladies, we have a problem," he said, pointing toward the center of the site. "My boys have been mapping the area, and this place is huge. We thought we found some old ruins, but this is looking more like a fortress. A really big fortress." Elena felt a chill run down her spine, despite the heat. She followed Jake toward the center of their dig site, where his security team had been working all morning. What she saw there made her stop walking. Rising from the ground was what looked like the top of a massive tower. It was made of the same dark metal as everything else, but this structure was different. Along its sides were openings that looked like windows, but they were too regular, too purposeful. They looked like firing ports for weapons. "How big do you think this thing is?" Elena asked quietly. Jake looked at his scanner and frowned. "From what we can tell, this tower goes down at least 50 meters underground. And there are more of them. Lots more. This whole area is built on top of some kind of underground city." Dr. Ryan Clark jogged over to them, his face red from running in the heat. Ryan was their technology expert, and he had been trying to get their equipment to work properly in the strange energy field that surrounded the ruins. "Elena, you need to hear this," he said, breathing hard. "I finally got our deep scanners working, and I ran a full sweep of the area. This place is not just big, it's massive. The underground structures cover almost 100 square kilometers. And that's not the weird part." Elena waited for him to catch his breath. Ryan was not usually one to get excited about their finds, so whatever he had discovered must be important. "The weird part is that everything down there is still working. I am getting energy readings from all over the place. Whatever built this place, their technology is still running after all this time." Amy walked over to them, her tablet in her hands. "I have been running the symbols through our translation programs, and I am starting to get some results. The language is old, really old, but parts of it seem similar to languages we know. That should be impossible." She showed them her tablet screen, where she had been working on translating the symbols. "This symbol here shows up over and over again. In every language database we have, it means the same thing. It means home or territory, but it is always written with this other symbol next to it." Elena looked at the second symbol Amy was pointing to. It was simple compared to the others, just a circle with lines coming out of it like rays of sunlight. But something about it made her feel uncomfortable. "What does the second symbol mean?" she asked. Amy's voice was barely above a whisper. "It means death, but not death like dying of old age. Death like in battle, death like in war." Jake stepped closer to look at the tablet. "So this place is marked as a territory of death? That sounds like a warning to me." Elena nodded slowly. She had been thinking the same thing. This was not just an ancient city they had found. This was a fortress built by a race that wanted everyone to know they were dangerous. But who would build something like this? And why? "There is something else," Amy continued. "I found references to these builders in our xenarchaeology databases. Every major civilization in the galaxy has legends about them. They call them different names, but the stories are always the same." She pulled up another screen on her tablet. The Altarians called them the Endless Warriors. The Zephyrians called them the Death Walkers. The Crystalline Collective called them the Adaptive Ones. Every single culture has stories about ancient beings who could not be defeated in battle. Elena felt her excitement growing. If Amy was right, they had found evidence of the most legendary race in galactic history. These were the beings that had scared entire civilizations so badly that they still told stories about them millions of years later. "What happened to them?" Elena asked. Amy shrugged. "According to the legends, they just disappeared one day. No one knows why or where they went. Some stories say they found a way to leave this galaxy entirely. Others say they are still out there, somewhere, waiting." Commander Thompson was studying his scanner readings again. "Well, if they are still out there, they left a lot of stuff behind. I am reading weapon systems built into the walls of this place. Big ones, the kind that could destroy spaceships." Dr. Clark was nodding as he looked at his own equipment. Energy readings are getting stronger the deeper we go. Whatever is powering this place, it has been running for a very long time. Maybe millions of years." Elena made a decision. She was the leader of this expedition, and she knew they had found something that could change everything the galaxy knew about its history. But she also knew it was dangerous. "We are going to keep digging," she said, "but we are going to be very careful. Jake, I want your security team to set up a perimeter around the entire site. Ryan, see if you can figure out how to safely access whatever is powering this place. Amy, keep working on those translations. I want to know everything we can about who built this place." As the team spread out to continue their work, Elena stood alone next to the tower that rose from the ground like a dark finger pointing at the sky. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. Somewhere beneath her feet lay the remains of a civilization that had been so powerful, so feared, that their legend had survived longer than most stars. But Elena was a scientist, and scientists were not afraid of the unknown. They were excited by it. Whatever secrets lay buried in this place, she was going to find them, even if those secrets changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy and the ancient beings who had once ruled it with fear. Captain Lisa Brown stood at attention in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council building on New Centauri. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of different species, all talking in hushed voices about the report she had just delivered. The news from Kepler 442c had spread through the galaxy faster than she had expected. Chancellor Vexstar of the Altarian Empire called for silence with a wave of his four arms. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished silver. His large black eyes showed no emotion as he spoke, but Lisa could hear the worry in his voice. "Captain Brown, please tell the Council again what your survey team found on Kepler 442c. Leave out nothing, no matter how small it might seem." Lisa stepped forward and activated her holographic display. Images of the ancient ruins appeared in the air, above the council floor. She heard several delegates gasp when they saw the size of the underground fortress. 3 weeks ago, Dr. Elena Martinez and her team discovered ruins that appear to be millions of years old. But our dating equipment shows they are much younger than that. The construction materials and energy systems are far more advanced than anything we have today. The hologram showed the dark metal towers rising from the ground, their weapon ports clearly visible. Lisa watched as several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The most disturbing part is the symbols carved into the walls. Our language experts have identified them as belonging to the race that our ancient stories call by many names. The Endless Warriors, the Deathwalkers, the Adaptive Ones. Ambassador Krixthul of the Zephyrian Republic stood up suddenly. He was short and covered in blue scales that changed color when he was excited or afraid. Right now, those scales were turning a deep purple, which Lisa knew meant he was terrified. Captain Brown, are you telling this council that the Terrans have returned? Lisa felt a chill when she heard the name. Terrans. It was the oldest name for the ancient race found in the most ancient texts of every civilization. It was the name that parents used to scare their children into behaving. We do not know if they have returned, Ambassador. We only know that we have found evidence that they once existed and that their technology is still active. Representative Zaranel of the Crystalline Collective rose from her chair. Her body was made of living crystal that rang like bells when she moved. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music, but the words she sang were filled with fear. My people's memory crystals contain warnings about the Terrans that go back to the beginning of our civilization. They were beings who could survive in the cold of space without protection. They could eat almost anything to stay alive. They could take any tool and turn it into a weapon. She paused, and the crystal formations on her head glowed brighter as she accessed her people's ancient memories. But most frightening of all, they never gave up. No matter how many times they were defeated, they always came back stronger. They learned from every battle, adapted to every challenge. Our ancestors said that fighting them was like fighting the universe itself. Dr. Marcus Webb, the Council's chief xenobiologist, stepped forward. He was human, but he had been born on one of the outer colonies and knew little about ancient Earth legends. His own people had long ago forgotten their true origins. Honored delegates, I have studied the evidence that Captain Brown brought us. Based on the biological traces found at the site, I believe the Terrans were not just another alien species. They were something far more dangerous. He activated his own holographic display, showing genetic patterns and biological data. The evidence suggests that Terrans were a species that evolved specifically for survival and warfare. Their bodies were designed to heal quickly from injuries. Their minds were built to solve problems under extreme stress. They could eat almost any organic matter and survive in environments that would kill most other species. The hall fell silent as Dr. Webb continued his presentation. But the most terrifying aspect is their social structure. Unlike most species, who specialize in specific roles, every Terran appears to have been capable of being a soldier, a scientist, an engineer, and a leader all at the same time. They were not just a military force, they were an entire civilization, built for conquest. Chancellor Vextar leaned forward in his chair. Dr. Webb, in your professional opinion, what would happen if the Terrans returned to the galaxy today? Dr. Webb was quiet for a long moment before he answered. Honored Chancellor, based on what we know about their capabilities, I believe they could conquer the entire galaxy within a few years. Our combined fleets would not be able to stop them. The council chamber erupted in worried voices. Representatives began talking to each other in dozens of different languages, but Lisa could hear the fear in all of them. She had expected this reaction, but it still made her uncomfortable. Ambassador Thekalar of the hegemony world stood up. He was a large, bear-like creature with thick brown fur and small, intelligent eyes. His people were known as some of the best warriors in the galaxy, but even he looked worried. "Captain Brown, you said their technology is still active. Does that mean they could be monitoring us right now? Do they know that we found their fortress?" Lisa had been dreading this question. "We do not know, Ambassador. The energy readings from the site are unlike anything we have seen before. It is possible that their systems are still connected to other Terran installations throughout the galaxy." Representative Mirasol of the Free Traders spoke up from the back of the chamber. She was a tall, elegant being with purple skin and 6 arms, and her people were known for their knowledge of galactic history. "If I may, honored delegates, there is something else we should consider. In all of our ancient stories about the Terrans, they always disappeared suddenly. Every legend says the same thing. One day they were conquering worlds across the galaxy, and the next day they were gone." She moved closer to the center of the chamber, her multiple arms gesturing as she spoke. "What if they did not disappear? What if they are still out there, watching us? What if they have been waiting for us to become advanced enough to find their ruins?" Dr. Webb nodded slowly. Representative Mirasol raises an excellent point. The Terrans were clearly more advanced than any current civilization. If they wanted to remain hidden, they could easily do so. Chancellor Vexstar called for order as the chamber began to buzz with worried conversations again. "Delegates, please. We must approach this situation with wisdom and caution. Captain Brown, I am authorizing a full research expedition to Kepler 442c. We need to learn everything we can about these Terrans and their capabilities." He turned to address the entire council. "I am also calling for an emergency meeting of all galactic defense forces. If the Terrans are still active, we need to be prepared for any possibility. But I want to make one thing clear to everyone here. The Chancellor's voice grew stronger as he continued. "We will not panic. We will not make assumptions. We will gather information and make decisions based on facts, not fear. The legends of the Terrans have kept our children awake at night for thousands of years, but we are not children anymore. We are the leaders of advanced civilizations, and we will act accordingly." Captain Brown saluted the Chancellor and prepared to leave. She had a lot of work to do. The research expedition to Kepler 442c would need the best scientists and military personnel the galaxy could provide. And if the Terrans were truly still active, she wanted to be ready for whatever they might find out as she walked out of the council chamber. Lisa could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of known space, the most feared beings in galactic history might still be alive. And now that their ancient fortress had been discovered, they might be coming home. 3 months had passed since Elena's team first discovered the ancient ruins on Kepler 442c. The small dig site had grown into a massive research operation with scientists from every major civilization in the galaxy. Elena now had over 200 people working under her command, but she still spent most of her time in the deepest parts of the underground city. She stood before a massive door that her team had discovered just that morning. The door was made of the same dark metal as everything else, but this one was different. It was covered in symbols that seemed to glow with their own light, and it hummed with energy that made her teeth ache. Dr. Ryan Clark knelt beside a control panel next to the door, his instruments spread out around him like the tools of a surgeon. He had been working for 6 hours straight, trying to understand the alien technology that kept the door sealed. "Elena, I think I have figured out how this works," he said without looking up from his work. "The good news is that I can probably open it. The bad news is that I have no idea what will happen when I do." Elena walked over to where Ryan was working. The control panel was unlike anything she had seen before. Instead of buttons or switches, it seemed to respond to touch, and thought at the same time. When Ryan placed his hand on it, patterns of light would dance across its surface. "What makes? You think it will open?" she asked. Ryan pointed to a series of symbols that were blinking slowly on the panel. These symbols matched the ones that Dr. Rodriguez translated last week. They seemed to be some kind of access code. But here is the strange part. The code is not just any random sequence. It spells out a word. Elena felt her heart start beating faster. What word? "Welcome." Dr. Amy Rodriguez hurried over to them, her tablet clutched in her hands. She had been working day and night on translating the symbols they found throughout the ruins, and she looked exhausted but excited. "Elena, you need to see what I found in the texts upstairs," she said breathlessly. "I have been translating the story carved into the main tower, and it is not what we thought it was." She showed Elena her tablet, where she had been putting together pieces of the ancient story like a puzzle. "We thought these were records of conquest and war, but they are not. They are records of exploration and discovery. The beings who built this place were not conquerors. They were explorers." Elena took the tablet and read Amy's translation. The words were simple but powerful. They spoke of a people who traveled from star to star, looking for new worlds and new life. They built their fortresses not to attack others, but to protect themselves while they learned about the universe around them. "But what about all the weapons?" Elena asked. "The energy cannons, the defensive systems?" Amy pointed to another section of her translation. "According to this, they built their defenses because everywhere they went, other species attacked them. On sight, they were so different, so adaptable, that other races thought they were demons or monsters." Commander Jake Thompson walked up to the group, his face serious as always. He had been coordinating security for the dig site, but Elena could tell that something was bothering him. "Ladies, we have a problem," he said. "My sensors are picking up energy readings from all over this facility. Whatever Ryan did to that control panel, it seems to have woken something up." As if responding to his words, the door in front of them began to glow brighter. The humming sound grew louder, and Elena could feel the vibration in her bones. Then, with a sound like thunder, the massive door began to slide open. Beyond the door was a chamber larger than anything they had found so far. The walls were lined with what looked like computers, but computers made of crystal and metal that seemed to grow together like living things. In the center of the room was a raised platform, and on that platform was something that made Elena gasp. It was a perfect sphere, about the size of a person, floating above the platform without any visible support. The sphere was made of the same dark metal as the rest of the facility, but its surface was covered in moving patterns of light that seemed to tell a story all by themselves. "What is that thing?" Ryan whispered. Dr. Rodriguez was already walking toward the sphere, her instruments out and scanning. "I am getting massive energy readings from it, but not the kind of energy we use for power. This is something else. Something like a computer, but much more advanced." Elena followed Amy into the chamber, feeling like she was walking into a temple or a tomb. The air inside felt different, charged with electricity and something else that she could not name. As they approached the sphere, the patterns of light on its surface began to move faster. Then, without warning, the sphere began to speak. Not in words, but in images that appeared directly in their minds. Elena saw flashes of worlds she had never imagined. Green planets covered in forests, red deserts under twin suns, ice worlds, where cities grew beneath the frozen surface. And on every world, she saw the same beings. They looked almost human, but stronger, more adaptable. They were building, exploring, learning. But in every image, Elena also saw fear. Other species running from the explorers, attacking them, driving them away. The explorers were not evil, But they were so good at surviving, so quick to adapt, that other species could not understand them. They were refugees, Amy said quietly, and Elena realized that Amy was seeing the same images. They were not conquerors at all. They were refugees running from something. The images changed, showing the explorers arriving at new worlds only, to be met with weapons and fear. Elena saw battles that the explorers did not want to fight, but had to fight to survive. She saw them building their fortresses not to attack, but to have somewhere safe to rest and repair their ships. What were they running from? Elena asked, but she was not sure if she was asking Amy or the sphere itself. The answer came in more. Images. Elena saw a world dying, its star growing old and dangerous. She saw millions of beings loading onto ships, carrying everything they could save from their dying home. She saw them scattered across the galaxy, looking for new places to live, but finding only fear and war. Ryan was studying his instruments, his face pale. Elena, this thing is not just showing us images. It is downloading information directly into our brains. I am reading massive data transfers happening right now. Alana could feel it too. Knowledge was flowing into her mind, but not in words or pictures. She was learning things she had never studied, understanding concepts that should have taken years to master. She was learning the language of the ancient explorers, their history, their hopes and dreams, and she was learning their name for themselves. Not Terrans, not Deathwalkers, not any of the frightening names that other species had given them. They called themselves something much simpler. Humans. The sphere pulsed with brighter light, and Elena saw one final image. A blue world orbiting. A yellow star, with ships leaving its surface and heading out into the galaxy. But then the image changed, showing the same ships returning home, carrying with them the survivors of a great journey. They went home, Elena said out loud, finally understanding. All those centuries ago, when they disappeared from the galaxy, they did not die. They went home. Amy was nodding, tears running down her face. They left all of this behind as a message. A message for when we were ready to understand the truth about them. The sphere flickered once more, and then projected a new image into their minds. It was a map, showing the location of a small blue world in a distant part of the galaxy. And underneath the map were coordinates and a simple message that Elena could now read in the ancient language. When you are ready to meet us as friends, you will know where to find us. Elena stood in the communications room of the research station, watching as data from the sphere was transmitted to every major world in the galaxy. The discovery had shaken the foundations of everything the galactic civilizations believed about their history. The most feared beings in the galaxy had been refugees, not conquerors. Dr. Amy Rodriguez sat beside her, still going through the massive amount of information that the sphere had downloaded into their minds. Amy could now read the ancient human language as if she had grown up speaking it, and what she was learning changed everything. Elena, you need to hear this, Amy said, pointing to her translation screen. I found records from the last human colony ship to leave this sector. The captain's name was Ben Foster, and his final log entry is dated exactly 812 years ago. Elena moved closer to read over Amy's shoulder. The words on the screen were simple but powerful. Captain Ben Foster, Earth Colonial Fleet, final log entry. We have received orders to abandon all outer colonies and return to Earth, the Galactic. Council's predecessor species have made it clear that our presence in their space is no longer welcome. Despite our efforts to establish peaceful relations, they continue to view us as a threat. Amy scrolled down to continue reading. We have tried to explain that we are refugees, not invaders. We have offered to share our technology, to help them develop their worlds, to work together for the good of all species. But fear is stronger than reason. They attack our supply ships, destroy our research stations, and spread stories about use that make us sound like monsters. Elena felt her heart sink as she read the next part of the log. Therefore, we have made the difficult decision to withdraw from all contact with the developing species of this galaxy. We will return to Earth and wait. Perhaps in a few centuries, when these young civilizations have matured, they will be ready to meet us without fear. We leave behind only automated facilities and data storage systems, in the hope that someday they will seek the truth instead of believing their legends. Dr. Ryan Clark walked into the communications room, his face serious. He had been analyzing the technical data from the sphere, trying to understand how advanced human technology had become during their isolation. Elena, I have some news that might interest you. The sphere did not just give us historical information. It also gave us current data. The humans did not just go home and wait. They kept developing, kept learning, kept growing. He activated a holographic display that showed technological readouts that made Alana's head spin. According to this data, human technology is now about 500 years ahead of anything we have in the current galaxy. They have learned how to manipulate matter at the atomic level, how to travel faster than we thought possible, and how to generate energy from sources we have never imagined. Elena stared at the display. Are you saying they could have returned to the galaxy any time they wanted to? Ryan nodded slowly. Elena, they could have conquered the entire galaxy centuries ago if they had wanted to. The fact that they stayed away means they kept their promise. They really did withdraw to give other species room to grow. Commander Jake Thompson entered the room, carrying a message pad that was blinking with an urgent signal. Elena, we just received a priority message from the Galactic Council. They want us to return to New Centauri immediately. Something big is happening. Elena looked at her team. They had been working together for months now, and she trusted them more than anyone else in the galaxy. If they were going to make first contact with humanity after 8 centuries, she wanted them with her. Pack everything, she said. We are going home to brief the council, and then we are going to follow those coordinates the sphere gave us. 2 weeks later, Elena stood once again in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Instead of fear and panic, there was excitement and hope. The truth about humanity had spread throughout the galaxy, and many species were eager to finally meet their legendary neighbors. Chancellor Vexstar called for order and addressed the assembled delegates. Fellow beings, we face a decision that will shape the future of our galaxy. We now know that the humans are real, that they are alive, and that they have been waiting for us to grow mature enough to meet them as equals. He gestured toward Elena, who stepped forward to address the council. Honored delegates, my team and I have analyzed all the data from the human facility. We believe that humanity represents the greatest opportunity our galaxy has ever had. They possess technology that could solve our energy problems, cure diseases we thought were incurable, and help us explore parts of the universe we never dreamed we could reach. Ambassador Crixtel of the Zephyrian Republic stood up. His scales were now a bright blue color, which Elena had learned meant he was excited rather than afraid. Dr. Martinez, what guarantee do we have that the humans will welcome us? What if they have changed during their isolation? What if they are angry about how our ancestors treated them? Elena had been expecting this question. Ambassador, everything we learned from their records suggests that humans are fundamentally peaceful. They withdrew from the galaxy not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to put the needs of other species before their own desires. Representative Zaranel of the Crystalline Collective sang her question in her musical voice. Dr. Martinez, if we make contact with the humans, what should we expect? How should we prepare? Elena smiled for the first time in weeks. Representative Zaranel, I believe we should expect to be surprised. The humans in their records are not the monsters from our legends. They are explorers, scientists, teachers, and builders. They are probably very curious about how we have developed during their absence. Dr. Marcus Webb stepped forward from his position as the Council's scientific advisor. Honored delegates, I have reviewed all of Dr. Martinez's findings, and I believe we are facing a unique moment in galactic history. The humans clearly have the power to dominate us if they choose to, but their past actions suggest they will not. Instead, they may offer us partnership and friendship. Chancellor Vexstar called for a vote. All in favor of authorizing a first contact mission to Earth? Elena watched as representative after representative voted in favor of the mission. When the final count was tallied, the vote was unanimous. Every species that had once feared the humans now wanted to meet them. Dr. Martinez, the Chancellor said, you will lead the first contact mission. Choose your team carefully. You will be representing not just your own species, but all of galactic civilization. Elena bowed to the Council. Honored Chancellor, I request permission to take the same team that made the original discovery. Dr. Rodriguez, Dr. Clark, and Commander Thompson have earned the right to be part of this historic moment. The Chancellor nodded his approval. Granted. You will depart in 1 week aboard the starship Horizon's Edge. The ship has been equipped with the finest technology our combined civilizations can provide. As Elena left the council chamber, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. In 1 week, she would be traveling to a small blue world that no one from the current galactic civilization had ever seen. She would be meeting beings who were part legend, part nightmare, and part hope for the future. But more than anything, she was excited. After 8 centuries of separation, humanity and the rest of the galaxy were finally going to meet again. And this time, Elena hoped they would. Meet as friends rather than as strangers afraid of the dark. The starship Horizon's Edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of an unknown solar system. Elena stood on the bridge, looking out at a small yellow star surrounded by several planets. Her heart was beating fast as she realized they had found the coordinates from the ancient sphere. Captain Lisa Brown was commanding the ship, and she looked just as nervous as Elena felt. They were about to make contact with beings that the galaxy had feared for thousands of years. But now they knew the truth. The humans were not monsters. They were the galaxy's older siblings who had stepped aside to let their younger family members grow up. Dr. Martinez, we are detecting massive energy signatures from the 3rd planet, reported the ship's sensor officer. The planet appears to be blue and green, with large bodies of water and what looks like continental landmasses. Elena moved to the sensor station to look at the readings. What she saw made her gasp. The planet was covered with cities that glowed with soft light. Orbital stations hung in space around the planet like jewels on a necklace. And there were ships, hundreds of them, moving between the planet and its single large moon. Commander Thompson, are those ships heading toward us? Elena asked. Jake checked his tactical displays and shook his head. No, Elena, they seem to be going about their normal business. It is like they already knew we were coming. Dr. Amy Rodriguez was working at the communication station, trying to establish contact with the planet below. She had learned to speak the ancient human language from the sphere, but she was not sure if modern humans still spoke the same way. Elena, I am receiving a transmission from the planet. It is in the old human language, but with some changes. I think I can translate it. Amy's voice was shaking with excitement as she worked on the translation. The message says, Welcome to Earth, friends from the stars. We have been watching your approach, and we are happy to see you. Please follow the guidance signals to landing. Bay 7. Someone will be waiting to greet you. Elena felt tears in her eyes. After 800 years, humanity was welcoming them home. As their ship followed the guidance signals toward the planet. Elena got her first close look at Earth. It was more beautiful than any world she had ever seen. The blue ocean sparkled like jewels, and the green and brown continents were covered with forests and cities that seemed to grow together like living things. "Look at those cities," Dr. Ryan Clark said in wonder. "They look like they were grown, rather than built. And I am not detecting any pollution or environmental damage at all." Elena nodded as she watched the surface of Earth grow larger through the viewports. The human cities did look like they had been grown. Buildings curved and flowed like trees and flowers, but they were clearly made with technology far beyond anything the galaxy possessed. The horizon's edge landed in a vast spaceport that was carved into the side of a mountain. The landing bay was large enough to hold a dozen ships their size, but theirs was the only one there. As they touched down, Elena could see figures waiting for them outside. "Elena, are you ready for this?" Commander Thompson asked as they prepared to leave the ship. Elena took a deep breath and nodded. "Jake, we are about to meet the most advanced beings in the galaxy, the beings our ancestors thought were demons. But now we know they are just people who have been waiting a very long time to say hello." The airlock opened, and Elena stepped out onto the surface of Earth for the first time. The air was clean and fresh, with a smell like flowers and growing things. The gravity was slightly lighter than what she was used to, making her feel like she could jump higher and move faster. Walking toward them was a man who looked to be in his 40s, with brown hair and kind eyes. He was wearing simple clothes that looked comfortable rather than formal. Behind him were several other humans, men and women of different ages and appearances, all smiling and looking excited to meet their visitors. "Dr. Martinez, I presume?" the man said, extending his hand in greeting. "I am Director Alex Parker of the Earth Defense Force. Welcome to Earth. We have been looking forward to this day for a very long time." Elena shook his hand, surprised by how normal he seemed. This was one of the beings that had terrified the galaxy for thousands of years, and he seemed like the friendliest person she had ever met. "Director Parker, it is an honor to meet you. I am Dr. Elena Martinez, representing the Galactic Council. We have come to learn about your people and to apologize for the misunderstandings of the past." Alex smiled and gestured for them to follow him. "Dr. Martinez, there is nothing to apologize for. Our ancestors made the right choice when they decided to give the galaxy time to grow, and you have grown beautifully. We have been watching your progress, and we are very proud of what you have accomplished." As they walked through the spaceport, Elena saw more humans going about their daily work. They looked just like the people from her own species, but there was something different about them. They moved with confidence and grace, and their eyes held a wisdom that came from centuries of learning and growing. "Director Parker, may I ask, what humans have been doing for the past 800 years? Elena asked as they walked out. Alex chuckled. "We have been busy, Dr. Martinez. We spent the first few centuries healing the damage that our exodus caused to our home world. Then we spent time learning about ourselves, developing new technologies, and preparing for the day when we could rejoin the galactic community." They entered a building that looked like it was made of crystal and living wood growing together. Inside, the walls showed images of space, other worlds, and scenes of daily life on Earth. Elena realized that these were not just pictures, but windows showing real places in real time. "This is our planetary coordination center," Alex explained. "From here, we monitor the entire galaxy. We have watched every species develop, celebrated every achievement, and worried about every conflict. You are our family, even though we have been apart for so long." Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, her translator device in her hand. "Director Parker, we learned from your ancient records that humans withdrew from the galaxy to let other species develop naturally. But why? You could have ruled the galaxy if you had wanted to." Alex's expression became serious but kind. Dr. Rodriguez, ruling others was never our goal. We are explorers and builders, not conquerors. When we realized that our presence was frightening younger species and preventing them from reaching their full potential, we made the only choice that felt right. We went home. Elena felt a deep respect for these beings who had given up an entire galaxy so that others could grow. But now we are back, Alex continued, his smile returning. And we are here not as rulers or teachers, but as friends and partners. The galaxy faces challenges that will require all of us working together. Climate problems, resource shortages, conflicts between species. These are problems that no one civilization can solve alone. Jake stepped forward. Director Parker, what kind of partnership are you offering? Alex gestured to the images on the walls around them. Commander Thompson, we are offering everything we have learned during our time away. Clean energy that will never run out. Medical technology that can cure diseases and extend life. Transportation systems that can take you to other galaxies. But most importantly, we are offering friendship and cooperation. Elena looked around at her team and saw the same wonder and excitement in their eyes that she felt in her heart. Director Parker, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I accept your offer of partnership. It is time for the galaxy's family to be reunited. Alex smiled and extended his hand again. Welcome home, Dr. Martinez. Welcome home to all of you. The universe is a big place, and there is so much we can explore together. As Elena shook his hand again, she realized that this was not just the end of their mission. It was the beginning of a new age for the entire galaxy. The most feared beings in galactic history had turned out to be exactly what the galaxy needed. Wise older siblings ready to help their family reach for the stars.